Let me ask you a question right off the bat. What's actually more dangerous, investing in shares or not investing at all? Now, I know for a lot of us, the answer feels like a no-brainer. The stock market, obviously. We hear the words share market and our brains just immediately light up with alarm bells, right? We picture this giant, wildly unpredictable casino where our hard-earned cash can just vanish into thin air. But what if that fear, that deeply ingrained panic, is completely backward? What if the real danger is exactly the opposite of what we've been taught our whole lives?
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, honestly paradigm-shifting approach to wealth creation that we found in a recent interview with Dr. Bhupal Nanavath. Instead of the usual panic-driven financial advice you hear everywhere, we're going to explore why India is uniquely positioned as a generational wealth engine right now. And perhaps more importantly, we'll talk about how you can rewire your brain to stop fearing the market and start genuinely understanding it. Let's dive right in.
All right, Section 1, Fear versus Understanding.
So it's incredibly common to associate the share market with pure danger. But, as Dr. Nanavath points out, people are terrified mostly because they were taught to just jump straight into the market, not to actually understand it first. There's this massive contrast in how we're taught to handle our money. I mean, the industry norm literally pushes a blind invest and grow mentality. You know, just hand over your cash, cross your fingers, and hope for the best. But a much stronger, more foundational philosophy flips that entirely. Understand, then grow. You see, fear isn't a byproduct of the market itself. It's really just a symptom of ignorance. When your knowledge goes up, that fear naturally just melts away.
The source material highlights this ecosystem called Shares Bazaar that tackles this exact problem head-on. And what's really interesting here is that it isn't just another trading app buzzing your phone with endless alerts. No, it's fundamentally designed to build thinkers. The biggest mistake new investors make is chasing hot tips or following market noise instead of looking at the actual business fundamentals. This platform's whole methodology aims to cure that ignorance. It's about slowly transforming people who just chase trends into intelligent, disciplined investors who actually understand what they own.
Moving on to Section 2, India, the next superpower. Okay, so where exactly should these intelligent investors be looking? Well, before we even think about individual stocks, we need to zoom out to the macro picture. When you look at global shifts, it is fascinating to compare different financial hubs. Take Singapore, for instance. Singapore is incredibly efficient, but as Dr. Nanavath notes, Singapore manages wealth. India, on the flip side, is exponential. India creates wealth. Right now, global capital is aggressively hunting for economies that are resilient, democratic, and growing. And India offers this incredibly rare combination of long-term stability and just massive, unprecedented scale.
Let's break that down a bit further. India essentially has 4 specific alignments, creating this once-in-a-generation opportunity. First up is youth. This provides a massive demographic dividend of future workers and innovators. Second, we have technology, which is driving rapid digital adoption at a scale we rarely see anywhere else. Third is policy. We're talking sweeping economic reforms that are actively inviting global business in. And fourth, immense domestic demand, completely driven by a rapidly rising middle class. Because these 4 pillars are aligned so perfectly right now, the rest of the world isn't just sitting back and watching India, they are actively preparing to pour capital in.
Which brings us to Section 3, Breaking Common Investment Myths. Look, if India is the vehicle, your mindset is the engine. And we really need to dismantle the biggest misconception holding people back, that deeply entrenched, stubborn belief that the stock market is just legalized gambling. It's not. Gambling is blind risk. Investing, on the other hand, is calculated vision. Think about it. If you don't understand the business you're putting your money into, then yeah, you're absolutely gambling. But if you take the time to study, if you analyze, and if you stay disciplined, investing becomes literally the most powerful wealth creation tool on the planet.
Now, all of this leads to a very natural question. Do you actually need a fancy finance degree or some sort of formal qualification to successfully navigate this? Like, do you really need to be a Wall Street insider just to win the game? There's a really striking quote from our source material that hits the nail on the head here. If qualification alone created wealth, every degree holder would be rich. Formal degrees are not the secret sauce. You really don't need a certificate to succeed. True, applied understanding of how markets and companies actually work is literally the only qualification that genuinely matters. At the end of the day, the market rewards understanding, not just a piece of paper.
Okay, fair enough, but let's test that understanding with the ultimate nightmare scenario for any beginner. What if the market completely crashes tomorrow? I mean, how does a true investor actually react when the sea turns red and everyone else around them is completely panicking?
Dr. Nanavath's answer? I will invest more. That is the totally counterintuitive truth of wealth creation. When fear is at its absolute peak, opportunity is at its absolute lowest price. It's wild to think about, but market crashes do not actually destroy wealth. They just transfer it. They transfer that wealth from the panicking masses who sell at a massive loss straight into the hands of the patient few who swoop in and buy up those discounted assets.
Let's move to Section 4, the danger of not investing. We spend so much of our time worrying about the risk of losing money in the market that we completely ignore the guaranteed loss happening right outside of it. Listen, if you keep your money stuffed under a mattress or sitting in a zero-yield bank account, inflation is going to silently eat it alive. You might feel safe because the number on your bank screen isn't officially going down, but your actual purchasing power, it's quietly evaporating every single day. The brutal reality here is that the absolute biggest financial risk you can take in life is thinking you're completely risk-free. All right, Section 5, mastering your financial emotions. The real financial battle? It doesn't actually happen on a glowing trading screen or in some fancy corporate boardroom. It happens entirely inside your own head. And the only real cure to emotional investing is following a structured journey. You simply can't skip to the end. The methodology starts with just grasping the absolute basics. From there, you begin to uncover how markets actually grow. Then you learn how to properly manage your downside risks. And only after completing those steps do you finally emerge as a confident, disciplined investor. Knowledge provides the map, but discipline is what actually gets you to the destination.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm just one person, I can't possibly compete with these massive Wall Street institutions, consider this hidden advantage: patience. Giant institutions are literally forced to move fast and show quarterly results to their demanding boards. But you? As an individual, you have the luxury of thinking long-term. And let me tell you, in the stock market, long-term thinking always, and I mean always, wins out over short-term reactivity. Of course, as you play that long game, you're inevitably going to experience some losses. Literally, everyone does. But we have to fundamentally reframe how we view that. A loss is not some kind of permanent failure, it's really just the tuition fee you pay to learn how the market truly works. Think about it. People who try to avoid all losses out of fear usually end up avoiding all the growth too.
It's definitely a tough pill to swallow, but people do not lose money because the market is somehow rigged against them or because external forces conspired to ruin their day. They lose money because of their own unchecked fear and greed. Without a really solid foundation of understanding, suddenly earning a higher income just leads to making much bigger, much more expensive mistakes.
Which brings us to the ultimate question facing you today. India is rising exponentially right now. The geopolitical winds are shifting, and the economic opportunities are expanding at a breakneck pace. The train is officially leaving the station. So the only question left is, are you going to put in the effort to participate, or are you just going to sit on the sidelines and watch it all happen? As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with one final, incredibly powerful thought from the source material. The market is not dangerous. Your lack of understanding is. The exact day you finally accept that truth is the day your fear ends and your real growth begins. The wealth isn't hidden away somewhere, it's just being ignored by those who refuse to learn. So, will you commit to understanding?